The narcissist suffers when there is no contact with their new supply. Have you ever wondered what happens when a narcissist is deprived of their new source of supply? It's a question that leaves many intrigued and puzzled, especially if you've had personal experience with someone who fits this description. Narcissists, often seen as unfeeling and detached, are far more affected by the loss of supply than they would ever admit. Their world, built on an unsteady foundation of external validation, begins to crack when their newest prize is no longer within reach. This isn't just a momentary inconvenience, it's a crisis for them. Keep watching, because by the end of this, you'll see just how deeply no contact cuts into a narcissist's psyche. Before we dive into the intricate web of narcissistic behavior, let me invite you to become a part of this journey toward understanding human dynamics. Subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share this with someone who might benefit from unraveling these complexities. Together, we can decode the patterns of human interaction that often leave us questioning everything. Now, let's talk about narcissists. To understand their suffering when cut off from their new supply, we must first grasp how central supply is to their existence. For a narcissist, life revolves around their constant need for validation. Unlike healthy individuals who derive self-worth from internal growth and meaningful relationships, narcissists are externally focused. They rely on others, partners, friends, colleagues, and even strangers, for their sense of identity and worth. Supply is more than attention or admiration, it's the oxygen that fuels their fragile sense of superiority. Without it, they are left gasping for air. Imagine, for a moment, a narcissist who has just secured a new source of supply. Perhaps it's a romantic partner they've love-bombed into submission or a colleague they've manipulated into admiration. This new supply becomes the focus of their attention and their tool for emotional sustenance. They bask in the glow of being adored, needed, or even feared. It reinforces their belief that they are special, powerful, and irreplaceable. But what happens when this new supply goes no contact? When the source of validation vanishes without warning? This is where the narcissist's carefully constructed world begins to unravel. At first, the narcissist might dismiss the situation. In their mind, they're far too important for anyone to simply walk away from. They cling to the belief that their charm, manipulation, or intimidation has created an unbreakable hold on the new supply. This initial dismissal isn't rooted in logic or a realistic assessment of the situation. It's their defense mechanism kicking in to shield their fragile ego from rejection. They tell themselves, this is temporary. They'll come back. They always do. For the narcissist, this denial phase is crucial because it keeps the illusion of their invulnerability intact. After all, how could someone possibly resist their carefully crafted persona? This self-deception is reinforced by their past successes. Narcissists are adept at fostering dependency in their targets, often employing tactics like love bombing to create a bond that feels impossible to sever. They shower their new supply with attention, affection, or promises of an idealized future. Over time, they subtly dismantle their target's sense of independence, convincing them that the narcissist is indispensable. This dynamic leads the narcissist to believe they hold all the power in the relationship, a belief that crumbles when no contact is enforced. As the silence stretches on, denial begins to give way to frustration. The creeping discomfort of being ignored, a sensation they are entirely unprepared to handle, starts to eat away at their composure. Being ignored contradicts their worldview, where they are the center of attention, the one who dictates the terms of interaction. To a narcissist, silence isn't just a lack of communication, it's an affront to their identity. It whispers the terrifying possibility that they are not as important, influential, or irreplaceable as they imagine. Why is no contact so uniquely painful for a narcissist? The answer lies in their deep psychological vulnerabilities. Despite their outward confidence and grandiosity, narcissists are plagued by profound insecurities. These insecurities are often rooted in unresolved childhood wounds, experiences of neglect, criticism, or abandonment that left them feeling unworthy or invisible. To cope, they construct a facade of superiority, using external validation to patch over the cracks in their self-esteem. The new supply, in this context, serves as more than a source of admiration or attention. It acts as an emotional bandage for these old wounds. When the new supply is no longer accessible, the narcissist is forced to confront the feelings they've worked so hard to bury, feelings of inadequacy, emptiness, and even self-loathing. This confrontation is not something they are equipped to handle. Instead of reflecting or processing these emotions, they seek to avoid them at all costs, often by doubling down on efforts to regain control over the lost supply or rapidly moving on to someone else. In these moments, their frustration morphs into something deeper, an existential panic. Without external validation, the narcissist's constructed identity starts to falter. The absence of the new supply exposes the hollowness of their self-worth, leaving them to face the one thing they fear most, their own vulnerability. The narcissist's response to no contact often follows a predictable pattern. First comes the attempt to re-establish control. They may send messages, call incessantly, or try to provoke a reaction through social media posts. These efforts are not driven by genuine concern or affection. Rather, they are attempts to regain the upper hand. When these tactics fail, the narcissist may escalate their behavior. Anger and frustration boil over, and they might lash out with accusations or smear campaigns. The goal is simple: force the new supply back into their orbit, even if it's through negative attention. But here's the paradox. While the narcissist outwardly projects anger or indifference, internally they are unraveling. The absence of supply is a direct attack on their sense of self. It creates a void that their fragile ego cannot fill on its own. For a narcissist, being ignored is one of the most intolerable experiences imaginable. It strips them of their power, their identity, and their sense of control. In many ways, it's a form of psychological starvation. What's particularly fascinating is how the narcissist's suffering manifests over time. Initially, it might be masked by their attempts to replace the lost supply. They'll seek out new targets, sometimes with alarming speed. But no matter how quickly they find someone new, the loss of the previous supply lingers in their subconscious. It's a reminder of their vulnerability, their inability to control others completely, and the fleeting nature of their constructed identity. As the no-contact period stretches on, the narcissist may experience something akin to withdrawal. Without the external validation they depend on, they are forced to grapple with their inner emptiness. This is a state they avoid at all costs, which is why they often jump from one source of supply to the next. But during those rare moments when they cannot secure a replacement quickly enough, their suffering becomes evident. It's in these moments that the mask slips, revealing the deep insecurity that lies beneath the surface. For those who have gone no contact with a narcissist, it's important to understand the power of this boundary. No contact is not just a way to protect yourself from further manipulation. It's also a way to disrupt the narcissist's cycle of control. It forces them to face the reality of their dependence on others for their sense of worth. While they may never admit it, the silence is deafening for them. It's a reminder that their power is not as absolute as they believe. As we conclude this discussion, it's important to recognize that narcissists are deeply complex individuals, shaped by a combination of their experiences, fears, and inner conflicts. Their behavior, while often harmful to those around them, is rooted in vulnerabilities they may not fully understand themselves. They wear a mask of confidence and superiority, but beneath that facade lies a fragile self-concept that is constantly at odds with their outward demeanor. Understanding this dynamic doesn't mean excusing their actions or minimizing the harm they cause, but it does provide valuable insight into why they act the way they do. Narcissistic behavior often stems from unresolved emotional wounds, particularly those formed in early childhood. Many narcissists were subjected to inconsistent care, neglect, or unrealistic expectations, leaving them with a sense of unworthiness or insecurity. To cope with these feelings, they construct a persona built on external validation and control. Their relationships become transactional, their sense of self-worth contingent on how effectively they can extract admiration or submission from others. This is why their behavior often seems predatory, driven by an insatiable need to fill an internal void they cannot acknowledge or address. For those who have been drawn into the orbit of a narcissist, understanding this can be both a source of clarity and a way to heal. It's not uncommon for victims of narcissistic relationships to question themselves, wondering if they could have done something differently to appease or satisfy the narcissist. But the truth is, no amount of effort can change the fundamental dynamics of such a relationship. The narcissist's need for control and validation is a cycle they perpetuate, often leaving those closest to them drained, confused, and hurt. This is where the no-contact rule becomes a transformative tool. It's not just about cutting ties with the narcissist, it's about reclaiming your sense of self and breaking free from the cycle of manipulation. No contact creates space for healing and self-reflection, allowing you to rebuild your identity outside the shadow of the narcissist's influence. It's an act of self-preservation and empowerment, a way to prioritize your well-being after enduring the emotional turbulence of such a relationship. However, implementing no contact is not without its challenges. Narcissists are often persistent in their attempts to re-establish control, using tactics that range from charm and promises to guilt and aggression. They may test your boundaries, exploit your vulnerabilities, or even turn to others to paint themselves as victims. This is why maintaining no contact requires not only physical separation but also emotional resilience. It's a commitment to prioritizing your peace over the chaos they bring, to valuing your own needs above their demands. As you navigate this path, remember that healing is not linear. The scars left by narcissistic relationships can take time to mend, and moments of doubt or difficulty are normal. Surround yourself with a support system, friends, family, or professionals who can offer guidance and encouragement. Educate yourself about narcissistic behavior and its impact, not to dwell on the past, but to empower yourself with the knowledge needed to move forward. Ultimately, choosing no contact is an act of reclaiming your narrative. It's a decision to step out of the narcissist cycle of control and into a life defined by your own values, aspirations, and sense of self-worth. While the narcissist may continue to cycle through relationships, searching for their next source of supply, you have the opportunity to break free, heal, and thrive. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of narcissistic behavior and the power of no contact. If this discussion resonated with you, consider sharing it with others who might benefit from these insights. Together, we can shed light on the complexities of human behavior and empower ourselves to build healthier, more fulfilling connections.